Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to visit India next year, with Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov revealing that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has extended an invitation to the Russian leaders, while the dates for the visit will be set in early 2025. In October, Modi visited the Russian city of Kazan for the BRIC Group's summit. Navy Chief Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi has said that India is set to seal the proposed procurement of 26 naval variants of Rafale jets and 3 additional Scorpene submarines soon. Speaking at a media briefing ahead of Navy Day on Monday, Admiral Tripathi has also said that the government's approval for 2 nuclear-powered submarines indicates its faith in the country's indigenous capabilities. The Navy chief further added that 62 ships and a submarine are currently under construction within the country as part of its efforts to boost its naval power. Meanwhile, here's what he said on Pakistan.
We are aware about the growth, surprising growth of Pakistan Navy, and they aim to become a 50-ship force by some time, by next decade. Seeing the economy of Pakistan, it is very surprising that how they are building or getting so many ships and submarines. Obviously, they have decided to choose weapons over welfare of their people. So, good luck to them.
Bangladesh's immigration police stopped more than 50 members of Hindu spiritual organization ISKCON from crossing into India from the Benapole border checkpoint with valid travel documents. The Bangladesh police did not allow the ISKCON members to proceed, citing quote-unquote suspicious travel. Now, Hindu devotees from across Bangladesh arrived at the land port along the international border on Saturday. As per local media, they wanted to leave the strife-hit nation through the Benapole-Petropole border crossing. US President Biden has signed a presidential pardon for his son, Hunter Biden, a reversal from his previous statements that he would grant him neither a pardon nor commutation. Hunter Biden was the first child of a sitting president to face criminal charges. He was convicted on felony gun charges this summer and pleaded guilty on felony tax charges. Despite the White House's assurances last month that the US president had no intentions of pardoning his son, the announcement has now come through. Meanwhile, US President-elect Donald Trump has slammed Joe Biden's move, calling it an abuse and miscarriage of justice. US President-elect Donald Trump has nominated Sheriff Chad Chronister, the top law enforcement officer of Florida, to lead the Drug Enforcement Administration. Chad will stop the flow of fentanyl and other illegal drugs across the southern border. The DEA administrator is a Senate-confirmed position. Chronister will work closely with Trump's choice for Attorney General, Pam Bondi. US President-elect Donald Trump has nominated Massad Boulos as a senior advisor on Arab and Middle Eastern affairs. Boulos is a Lebanese-American businessman and father-in-law of Trump's daughter, Tiffany. Boulos arranged Trump campaign's effort to engage the Arab-American community in Michigan. He organized meetings with large Arab-American population angered by Biden's backing of Israel's offensives in Gaza and Lebanon. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has arrived in Kiev to meet President Volodymyr Zelensky on a surprise visit. This marks Scholz's first visit to Ukraine's capital in 2.5 years. The Chancellor's arrival comes shortly after his controversial phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, which also drew criticism from Kiev. Scholz previously visited Kiev in June 2022 alongside French President Emmanuel Macron and then Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi. It marked the first visit by 3 European leaders since the outbreak of the full-scale war. Massive protests have erupted in Georgia over the government's decision to suspend the country's bid to join the European Union. Authorities clamped down hard on demonstrators, prompting condemnation from the US. Police fired tear gas and used water cannons, and more than 40 people were injured over the weekend. Georgia's Prime Minister accused the opposition of plotting to overthrow the government, while the country's pro-EU president has called for fresh elections. China has pledged quote-unquote resolute countermeasures following the United States' decision to approve more arms sales to Taiwan. This comes just hours before the island's president, William Lai-ching-te, made a transit through the state of Hawaii, which further angered Beijing. In a statement, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the US arms sale to Taiwan sends a wrong signal to the island's Taiwan independence forces and undermines US-China relations. Taiwanese President Lai-ching-te has visited the Pearl Harbor National Memorial in Hawaii and paid homage to those who perished during the 1941 attack during his visit to Hawaii. Lai toured the historic site and paid his respects to those who died during the Pearl Harbor attack at the memorial to the fallen soldiers. The president also met and had dinner with overseas-based compatriots before thanking the United States for facilitating the visit under the principles of security, dignity, comfort. Large protests took place across Venezuela, calling for the release of prisoners detained in protests against the disputed re-election of President Nicolás Maduro. Called by opposition leader Maria Machado, the demonstrations are also calling for a halt to what some are calling government repression. In a case that has outraged the community and deepened the historical distrust of law enforcement in the US, a white Kansas police detective accused of sexually assaulting black women and girls is set to go on federal trial. It is a part of a tangle of cases tied to decades of alleged abuse. 71-year-old Golubsky has been charged with 6 felony counts of violating women's civil rights and, if convicted, could die in prison. In a contrasting trend to the rest of Europe, Romania's governing left-wing party is set to keep its majority in parliament following general elections. However, it will face off against the resurgent far-right opposition with an increased number of seats. The election is set to have the highest voter turnout for a parliamentary election in 20 years, as polling shows more than 52.3% of eligible voters voted for their next prime minister and parliament. Kosovo Prime Minister Albin Kurti accused Serbia of sponsoring an attack in collaboration with Russia on Sunday. Kosovo officials said police had arrested 8 people after an explosion on Friday in the North Serb-populated part of the state hit a canal that sends water to its 2 main power plants. Pristina called it a quote-unquote terrorist attack conducted by Serbia. China successfully launched a new carrier rocket, the Long March 12, into space from the Hainan commercial spacecraft launch site in the southern island province of Hainan. This is the first launch mission undertaken by the Hainan commercial spacecraft launch site. Listen in.
可以兼顾3.35米、3.8米、4.2米直至5米直径的多构型的火箭，可满足19型火箭的发射需求。采用3频侧发模式设计，具有发射区站位时间短、环境适应好等特点。
In a historic first, Belgium has become the first country in the world to allow sex workers to sign formal employment contracts. Now, this move grants them access to sick days, maternity pay, and pension. The new law also guarantees fundamental rights for sex workers, including the ability to refuse clients, set the conditions of an act, and stop an act at any moment. While the lawmakers passed the law in May, it officially took effect on Sunday. As the holiday fever takes over the US, the American Museum of Natural History in New York has unveiled its annual origami holiday tree. It features over 1,000 hand-folded paper models. This year's theme, Jumping for Joy, celebrates the 2024 leap year with models of hopping animals like rabbits, frogs, and kangaroos. The tradition began in the early 70s when a museum entomologist created a small tree with origami insects. The 5-day International Sand Art Festival has begun in Odisha's Puri district, where several sand artists displayed their works of art. The 14th edition of the event is spotlighting artists from the UK, Portugal, Mexico, Russia, as well as Indian practitioners from Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, West Bengal, and Uttar Pradesh. Amid struggling sales, CEO of the world's fourth largest car maker, Stellantis, Carlos Tavares, has abruptly stepped down after nearly 4 years in the top spot. The US automaker, which owns car brands like Jeep, Citroën, and Ram, has been struggling over the past year, failing to cope up with rising competition and larger market changes. In fresh trouble for the US lender, Singapore Central Bank has fined JP Morgan $1.8 million for failing to prevent and detect misconduct by its relationship managers over client bond trades. The Singapore authorities said JP Morgan's relationship managers provided inaccurate or incomplete information to clients in 24 instances of over-the-counter bond transactions, charging them spreads above the agreed rates. As the holiday shopping season commences, e-commerce companies and retailers with robust websites are using artificial intelligence to offer a more personalized experience for shoppers. Amazon, Walmart, and other companies have rolled out improved chatbots. They allow customers to navigate shopping sites and request gift recommendations as if they were having a conversation with a person. Companies have enhanced their chatbots with generative artificial intelligence, making them more conversational and, they hope, more helpful for customers. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp's parent company Meta is reportedly planning an ambitious project to lay a subsea cable that spans the globe. While the scale may seem extraordinary, it aligns with the company's significant presence in the digital landscape. It contributes nearly 10% of fixed internet traffic and 22% of mobile internet traffic worldwide. The initial investment for this massive undertaking is estimated at a whopping $2 billion. However, as the project advances, the total cost is projected to rise to approximately $10 billion. Australia has proposed a new law that could impose fines of up to $33 million on global technology companies. This, if they suppress competition and prevent consumers from switching between services. The centre-left Labour government has targeted big tech's influence, and Parliament passed a law last week that banned social media use for children aged under 16. The proposed law would empower Australia's competition regulator to oversee compliance, investigate anti-competitive practices online, and fine companies. Meanwhile, talks to reach a landmark global plastic pollution treaty have collapsed in South Korea. This comes as delegates from nearly 200 nations failed to meet a self-imposed deadline after a week of intense negotiations. Cracks occurred in talks as more than 100 nations wanted to cap plastic production, while a handful of oil producers aim to only target plastic waste. Torrential rain flooded homes, businesses, and roads on Sunday in the Greek island of Rhodes as Storm Bora pounded the country for a second day. No injuries were reported in Rhodes, but fire services received dozens of calls for evacuations. The flood washed away cars and debris in the town of Lalsos, damaging people's houses and properties. On Saturday, a man died in flash floods which hit another Greek island in the northern Aegean. China's first overseas atmospheric background station, the Zhongshan National Atmospheric Background Station in Antarctica, officially has begun operations, enhancing global response to climate change. The station will conduct continuous and long-term operational observations of changes in atmospheric composition and concentration in Antarctica. The first big snowfall of the season is blanketing town in upstate New York and northwestern Pennsylvania as the hectic holiday travel and shopping weekend winds down. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro signed a disaster emergency proclamation as parts of the state received nearly 2 feet of snow, with more expected through Monday night. The 2024 Shanghai Marathon includes wheelchair racing for the first time, attracting some of the finest athletes in the sport. Listen in to one of the wheelchair racers.
整个赛道42多公里，这个全程的一种勘探，这个避免危险的出现。比如说在转弯啊、各种坡道，有些坑坑洼洼、坎啦什么，他们进行了特殊的处理。
With 2024 soon coming to an end, families in Chile welcome December with this year-end parade. Thousands gathered in Chile's capital Santiago to marvel at the giant helium-filled character balloons, inspired by characters from Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars, as well as traditional dancers and performers. The parade ran approximately 3 kilometers in front of the presidential palace with a magical show of color and family entertainment. Oscar-winning screenwriter Marshall Brickman, whose wide-ranging career spanned some of Woody Allen's best films, the Broadway musical Jersey Boys, and a number of Johnny Carson's most beloved sketches, died at the age of 85 on Sunday. Brickman was best known for his extensive collaboration with Allen, especially Annie Hall, which won them both an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. Japan's popular princess Aiko turned 23 on Sunday as she takes on more official duties, even while her future in the imperial family remains in doubt. Aiko, the only child of Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako, could be forced to renounce her royal status and leave the family if she marries outside the imperial family, in line with Japanese imperial law, which allows only males to take the throne.